Thank you very much, Ken Workington. Welcome, everybody, to the Meadowlands. Our special in the Sulky guest, Mr. Larry Rheinheimer, the trainer and co-owner of the Breeders' Crown champion and the Indiana superstar Freaky Feet Pete. Your first visit to the Meadowlands tonight. We appreciate you joining us. LaGrange, Indiana. And I understand when you were young, you actually worked for Del Pletcher in Chicago when he was big time. Is that true?
Yep, I worked for him for about 7 years. Is how I got started.
And that's how you got started in the business. And then it was time to raise a family, so you're back home in LaGrange, work in the trailer factory like everybody else, and you started racing ponies. That's what everybody does in Northwest Indiana.
Yes, they do. Everyone did, and that's how we brought the boys up, racing ponies.
And I understand you and Jay Cross and Byron Hooley were like Campbell and O'Donnell and Ron Waples. You won everything in sight in the pony races, right?
Well, we sure tried.
And,
yes.
and a lot of people got started in the ponies. Then when Hoosier Park opened, decided to get back into racehorses. Was that your story too?
Yes, it was. I always told my wife when the kids left, why we'd be back into the standard breds.
So do you train at one of the fairgrounds, or do you have your own place with a track?
No, we have our own place at the track where we train, and home, the farm.
Now, Larry, the Freaky Feet Pete story actually started when you bought the mare, Skyway Lori, off the Slaybach brothers, and she raced for you and did pretty well. She's had a lot of colts that have done pretty well, but none as good as Freaky Feet Pete.
Right. I mean, all the colts took a record and stuff, and they were real nice, but nothing like this horse.
Now, how did you come up with the name Freaky Feet Pete? Where's that come from?
When he was born, my boy called me. He'd never seen a foal born. So he called me and he says, "Dad, there's something wrong with this foal's feet." So I told him to call the veterinary right away and have him look at him. And he called the veterinary, Jeff King, and Jeff got to laugh, and he says, "Look at him in a couple hours." He went out in a couple hours and they were okay. So that's how we was getting ready to name him, and his two sons and him, they got to thinking, well, they come up with Freaky Feet Pete, and then him and track announcer at Hoosier Park, Steve Cross, are good friends. He thought he'd tongue tie him now and then. So that's how they come up with that name.
We hate you guys that try to come up with names
Yeah.
like that to mess us up. Now, you sold most of the foals out of Skyway Lori. What made you keep Pete?
Oh, we sold most of them, and they were good to us about selling them, and I priced him off a qualifier. Well, they thought it was too high at that time, but in about 3 or 4 weeks, here they come. And I said, no, not anymore. And then we talked it over. He didn't owe us anything, and we decided we'll just keep him, race him ourselves.
I'm sure, Larry, you've had a lot of calls, people trying to buy that horse over the last couple years. What is, if you can tell us, what's the most money you've been offered? Can you let us know?
Well, it's been big 6 figures.
Not 7 figures, just big 6 figures.
Well, 7, yeah.
7 figures. That's kind of life-changing money. Did you ever think about selling him?
Nope, not really, because he didn't owe us anything, and he's still a stud, and he didn't owe us anything, so we never give it a thought really about selling him. We thought we'd race him.
And what makes it even more special, I would imagine, you and your wife co-own, your son Marty does a lot of training with the horse. Pete's kind of been a family affair.
Yeah, he's got a good family following him.
Now, Freaky Feet Pete only lost, what was it, as a 2-year-old? Oh, he's only lost 2 races last year to Wiggle It Jiggle It and 1 to Wakazashi Hanover. That's some of the best colts around. You didn't leave the Midwest, though, with the exception of the Breeders' Crown. You supplemented last year. What went into that decision?
Well, we talked about it, and we thought we'd give him a chance. He made it. He earned it. We might as well supplement him to it. So it makes him eligible for the rest of his life.
Now, we tried to get you to come out for the Meadowlands Pace. I know a lot of people wanted you to supplement to their big races, but you passed. Why was that you didn't spend a little more money to maybe make a lot more money?
Well, yeah, I know it was a little bit, but still in the meantime, we was racing for quite a bit of money in the sire stakes, so we thought we might as well just stay at home and race for it.
And nothing wrong with that. You won everything in sight. You got $1.4 million on your card and hardly had to leave home, so that's a pretty good deal. Big rivalry developing between you and Wiggle It Jiggle It. Also Indiana sired. Mr. Wiggles was in Indiana at the time. Yeah. The Teagues are great people. You guys are great people. I bet you're having a lot of fun with it, too.
We do. We have a lot of fun. Yes, they are great people. We have a lot of rivalry going, and it's a lot of fun.
Now, in Indiana, especially in your hometown of LaGrange, it almost seems like Pete is a cult figure. When you go to the grocery store, when you go get a haircut, does everybody ask you about the horse and talk about him?
You go uptown, and most of the time go uptown to have coffee, and they say, when's Pete racing, or how's Pete doing? Well, most of the time they don't say how Pete's doing because they follow him. And they look it up somewhere on the computer or something. They're watching him.
I know I was at Hoosier Park. I was working at a horse sale out there the night of the Breeders' Crown, and I don't bet much, but I went up to the windows and I bet on Art Speak, I think, of the Breeders' Crown final, and the teller said, "You're not betting Pete, you're a traitor." They just love that horse at Hoosier Park.
Yeah, they do. I mean,
now, talk about the Franklin last week. There was so much buzz about that race. Freaky Feet Pete, Wiggle It, Jiggle It, Always Be Mickey. I've never heard so many people talking about one race in a long, long time, and it lived up to expectations. What kind of experience was that for you?
oh, it's been a great experience. It's been a chance in a lifetime, and it's probably been a race in the last decade with the three top horses going at each other, and it was a lot of pressure, but it was a lot of fun.
And you had to be happy with finishing second in that race.
I was super happy with finishing second. Got beat by a tremendous horse, and we're after him again, but we enjoyed.
Now, tonight, it's just Wiggle It, Jiggle It, because this is a race for 4-year-olds. He draws inside you. That could be a pretty big advantage. How do you think tonight's race is going to go, and what are your thoughts?
I have no idea. I've thought it out many times, but I don't tell Trace anything that's driving him. It's his decision when the gate springs, and a lot of things change.
Now, looking ahead, after the graduate final tonight, we've got the Houghton next week on Meadowlands Pace Night. Always Be Mickey will be in there. Are you going to be back for more with him?
We figure if he comes out okay tonight, we'll be back next week for it.
And mark your date, the first Saturday in August, we have a race called the U.S. Pacing Championship. Would you be in that race too?
We figure that's the plans right now of being in it, yes.
Well, Larry Rheinheimer, it's been a great ride with Freaky Feet Pete, one of the great success stories in recent memory in the sport of harness racing. Thanks for coming out to the Meadowlands. Best of luck tonight, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Larry Rheinheimer from LaGrange, Indiana, one of the men behind Freaky Feet Pete in the Graduate Showdown with Wiggle It, Jiggle It this evening. We'll take a quick time out. Hollywood Hayden back in the air chair to tee up tonight's action.